All right, Leigh. Head coach Leigh Veidman. How does it feel to be named permanent head coach, manager of Energy FC?
It's an honour, first of all. It's an honour to step ahead of the guys who have been here prior, who have some excellent CVs and background in Jimmy and JP and Steve. So to follow those types of coaches and people is absolutely an honour. And of course to lead the organisation and this group of players and these fans.
Talk about the process and how you got here. I mean, obviously, not the ideal way necessarily with succeeding a manager who was let go in the middle of a season, but kind of talk about that process and how how this all came to be.
Yeah. So came from an unfortunate situation with the prior head coach getting released, and of course I was the assistant coach. The club asked me to step in as the interim, and with the blessings of JP, I think that was important to get out of respect for him. I agreed to take the position, and that was in early June, I believe. So since then, it's been a while. I think we're 22 games in right now, maybe 23 games in, and it was an easy switch because I was very fortunate in that I did have a lot of responsibility. So for me, it was more of a change in title than it was a change in job responsibilities, and it actually forced me to be a little bit more specific in what was important around here. So I think overall, it's been an excellent learning process. From learning what is needed and necessary to make us win and get results on the pitch, and filtering out the things that aren't necessary. And of course the guys have done the work to show that too.
Talk about this group of guys. It seems like they've taken a liking to you. I've always had a liking for you, but immediately when you were named interim manager, they seemed they rallied behind you. And that first win you got, they presented you with the game ball and all those things. Just talk about this group and what they meant to you.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, none of this would have been possible without them. This situation can go one or two ways. It can go south or it can go north, and the group knew that, of course, results weren't where they should be, and they knew that they could be better, and they wanted to be better. And in that change, they decided to push forward. And you started to see the results of the people that we have in the locker room with the performances on the pitch. So the group have been absolutely phenomenal through this process, very supportive, very open in terms of dialogue and ways we can be better. And the staff too. The staff have got to be in that as well. Alexis, Paddy, Ian, Matt, Jeff, all being excellent support systems through this process. So there's some key people that I can't miss out on this.
I know your focus is purely on the remainder of this season, but have you already started looking ahead to the off season, what the team looks like next year, what you're going to do differently, what you've learned so far? Has any of your focus shifted to next season already, or is it purely on this season?
Purely on this season. We've got to keep our eyes on what our objective is, and of course you think about things throughout the year and who you'd like to keep around for next year and who will move on. But right now it's purely just focusing on what's ahead of us in these next 3 games.
Talk about your coaching style and maybe your philosophy a little bit. Just tell us a little bit about how you are as a coach, what your mentality's like.
I think for me it's a lot from my background and where I'm from. Being from Liverpool, and the expectation that our culture has and our city has of the teams that we follow and our upbringing. It's a very blue-collar, working-class city, and people go to work all day and then they won't go and watch a football game and you want to see entertainment. And that's how I see the game. I think the game should be fun. I think it should be entertaining. I think it should be back and forth. And of course, for me, the expectation is to always win, and that's a given at the professional level. But it's about entertainment. It's about having fun. It's about giving the fans something to come home from a long day's work, or bringing a family in town, or bringing the kids to a game, and going to a game that they enjoy.
Let's talk about the fans. They've taken a liking to you as well. I don't know why. I can't figure it out for life of me. But and I think you're slightly aware there's been a hashtag Hire Leigh movement. Fans, I think pretty much since that 3-game win streak, I think have been wanting you to get the job full time, which was pretty early on. Talk about the support they've shown you and what the fan base means to you in your short time here.
Yeah, it means everything. It really does. I try to hide away from it on Twitter, but you know, when you get tagged in it and your phone's blowing up, you see it all. But I've just kept quiet, and what I should do and need to do is thank them for their support since then, because we've done better this year. We've improved. We've had some dips. We've had a couple tough results, but they've stuck by us and stuck by me as well, and continue to support me and the team. So, you know, from me personally, I want to thank them because they've been absolutely phenomenal through this process.
And let's also talk about the city as a whole, or the community, and what you've kind of come to learn, or maybe appreciate, or even love. Like, what do you like about Oklahoma City? I mean, obviously you want a head coaching job. It has to be the right fit for you, and I'm sure this environment is probably part of that. So just kind of tell us about everything you've experienced since you've lived here and what you like about it.
Yeah, it's. I was thinking about this morning actually, because it's almost been 2 years since I've been here. We're only a couple of months away from that, and it's flown by. And usually when you're in a place that you don't like, it drags on. So this for me is flown by, and that shows me that I've absolutely enjoyed living in the city. The people are fantastic. The city itself is it's made for anybody. A family, a young couple, a married couple. The weather's great most of the time, except I am tired of the heat. But overall, I mean, it's been a fantastic place to live, and it reminds me kind of my second home, which is Omaha, Nebraska. Similar city, similar people, very welcoming, very supportive, and you know, the Oklahoma standard that everybody lives by here. People don't just talk about it; they show it, and that's what's important.
Let's talk about your upbringing, being from Liverpool. Talk about
how you ended up here.
How you ended up in the game. Talk about your playing career, your coaching career, just everything. Give us your bio.
Okay. Where do I start? So I'll kind of split it up into the city where I'm from, what it's like, my upbringing there, talk about the soccer side and the coaching side. So Liverpool is a very working class city. There's not a lot of money there. Where I'm from specifically, you've got to fight for every penny that you make, and it's a tough upbringing. It's a very tough upbringing, and when you come from an area like that, you learn that to enjoy the small things in life, but you also learn that you've got to work for everything. Anything that you get, you've got to work for, and that is the mentality of the people from Liverpool. So I've always wanted to be a pro player, as every young kid does. So obviously I lived in Liverpool up until I was 20, and then I played for various teams throughout the city, and around 20 years of age I came to the US on a scholarship, played through college, fortunate enough to get a couple of degrees from that through scholarships, and played PDL also for longer than I probably should have. But that was my desire to make it. I wanted to make it so bad that I played PDL for quite a while, and at some point I realized it wasn't going to work out. On the coaching side, I've coached since I was 16, so I've been coaching more than half of my life. A lot of people don't realize that, and I know the stigma's out there that, you know, I haven't been coaching pro soccer for a long time, but I've been coaching half of my life, which is a long time. So I started coaching at home. I took a degree at home before I moved to the USA after high school, and when I moved to the USA, I continued to coach club soccer. And just through the years, I started to work up in age groups, coach girls, coach boys, started to work into the ODP program. Along that pathway, I was starting to take my US coaching licenses, and you know, going to middle school, high school, going into college, started to coach PDL, and then eventually worked up the pyramid to where I got my first opportunity with Fresno FC. So, you know, through all of that process, it's taken a long time. It's taken a lot of work. But for me, the main thing was that even though I didn't make it as a player, that for me naturally transitioned into making it as a coach. Making it to the next level, seeing if I've got what it takes, and then when I got there, what now? What can I do now? So for me, it's a constant mentality of trying to be better, trying to learn, trying to push forward, trying to achieve success, not just for myself, but for any environment I am in. And I think that comes full circle all the way back to my roots and where I'm from, and the values that I grew up with within my family, within my city, is you've got to work for everything that you get. And I think to this day, and the reason I've got this opportunity is because I've worked for it. And the work is not done. It's only going to get harder. But up until this day, work has got me here, and work is going to continue to push me, this team, these fans, and this organisation forward.
So you're a big believer in our club motto, the state motto as well, the work conquers all.
Work conquers all. Work conquers all. And I think the fact that I've had a fast pathway over the past 3 years with stepping into the pro game in 2019, being an assistant coach with Fresno, being an assistant coach last year, and obviously 3 years in, I'm a head coach. For me, that 3 years is only a very small chunk of my coaching experience. It's a very small chunk out of the 16 plus years I've been coaching. So people will zoom in on those 3 years, but for me it's about the experiences over those 16 years and what I've learned from that and how that applies to now. So for me, that is taking work. So for me, yes, work conquers all. It really does.
So taking over for JP, you probably thought in the back of your mind, if I go on a run here and do well, this could be my job. Or did you not think that? Did you think this was interim regardless, and that this is the end of your time in the city possibly and you're going to move on? Or
yes. Well, I'm very much both sides of the fence guy.
Yeah.
I try and think of all scenarios that may happen. First of all, I had no idea what was going to happen, but I've got to paint a picture in my mind. First of all, what's most important to me? Most important thing to me was that I knew we had a locker room that could be successful. So the most important thing for me was pulling the most out of this locker room that we could get to get this team and this club back to where it should be. That was my first thought. The other thoughts that I had were, okay, this may lead into a job. This may lead into me still being the assistant coach next year with a different head coach. This may lead to me not being here at all. There's a couple different scenarios that could have happened. So for me, it wasn't really important of what was going to happen. It was about making this group successful. Now, whatever that success is, if it's playoffs, if it's a better place than where we were when I took over, the definition of success and could be many different things here. But it was getting this group to where they could and should be, and I think we're on that right pathway.
So how did this all come to be? I mean, were you in communication with the execs at Energy FC? Were they talking to you, or were you meeting with them throughout your tenure these past few months, giving updates, more or less interviewing without realizing it necessarily? I mean, how were the talks back and forth between?
Yeah. It started off with me, of course, taking the interim and accepting it, and then I think, I don't really know the time frames, but it was probably a month and a half, maybe, I'd say around that, to where I was aware that the search had stopped for a head coach. So at that point, any scenario could still happen. So for me, it was more important to just, the search has stopped. It's great news, but I had to continue to focus on what was most important. This is never about me getting this job. It was about putting this club and this team on a pathway to success. And with that comes rewards, and I think the reward is me being offered the position. And of course, we haven't achieved what we want to achieve just yet. We're still on the pathway to do so. So regardless of the situation, me knowing right now and us still having three games to go, the objective doesn't change to me, the mindset doesn't change for me. We've still got to make this thing happen, and we've still got to make this team as successful as it can be.
And then how did you find out that you were going to be the guy? How did you?
Well, Jeff asked me for a meeting. I had no idea what the meeting was about. In fact, I turned up to the meeting with a pair of shorts on and some shoes with no socks, a cap, and a random t-shirt on. So I wasn't expecting it to be any formal meeting. Came in, closed the door, we cracked open a beer each, and we were talking about life, and he told me. So it was pretty casual, and we did it over a beer, which was even more fun.